Hey everybody, it's Travis speaking. A lot of the time when we do our videos, what we do is we'll, target one concept and how to do something in one of the Autodesk applications that we typically sell. And what I wanted to kind of address today was something a little bit more basic, however, something a lot more important if you're going to get into Revit architecture. So what I've got set up here today is just a small grid and a section marker, and what I want to do is just review some of the modify tools. So once you start creating your walls, there's a few important things that you should pay attention to in order to keep your model clean and to make your modeling process much more simple. So what I've got here is this simple grid. I'm going to come back over to my architecture tab, and I'm just going to take a look at some of the wall features here. So as most of you might be aware of already from being in Revit, you've got some pretty typical options for drawing walls. This is essentially drafting, only what you're creating are fully assembled walls. So some things to pay attention to are when you're just mousing over any of these options and you let the mouse sit there for a bit, you'll see a nice little animation telling you what's going to happen if you, say, create a rectangle. So I'll just click on the rectangle for the time being and just make a quick rectangle from those 2 points on the grid. Now if I add a little more detail to this and I change my line options and just change these walls a little bit to something with a little more a few more components. I'm going to change it over to brick and CMU on metal stud. So now we can actually see the makeup of this wall and see how it was located. I grabbed those 2 points on my grid, so you'll notice if I select my wall here that it has a location line. So that location line is the wall center line. But if I wanted to create this a little bit differently, let's just delete those for the time being. I could use a different location line. So I'll choose my wall again, and this time instead of wall center line, I'm going to use finish face interior. So this means where I place my points, that's going to be the inside of my wall. So if I was to do this with the rectangle, again, you would see something that looked a little bit differently. Let's just use this square here of our grid. Because I'm using the inside face, whatever I choose for my 2 points, that's where it's going to be. But say you wanted to change that manually after the fact and you didn't want to change the location line. You can come over to your modify tools, and this one right here, the align, is very handy. It comes in handy in a lot of different places. So let's just take a look at how this works. I'm going to click on the align tool and I'm going to select the line that I want the other location to move to. So my reference line here is going to be this grid line, and then I'm going to choose a line. Maybe it's the outside face of the wall, maybe it's the core center line or the overall wall center line. But if you want to take a look at this right here, it says prefer wall faces. You can change that as well, and this will give you a better idea as to what Revit thinks you want to move. So if we change this to center of core, you'll notice that it picks up the structural aspect of it. So that's the one I want to use. I'm going to change center of core, and I'll choose again my grid line, and then I'll come and see this dotted line that represents the middle of my core. So if I do that all over, then I know whenever I'm laying out these walls, I have people on site doing this, that they can use the grid line to lay out their stud pattern. Right? So this is very helpful. Another place that it's helpful is with floor elevations. If I was going to put a floor in here, I'll just start just this quick simple floor, and again I'm just going to draw that using a rectangle, and we'll put that to this corner right here. And we'll accept that. So now I didn't pay too much attention as to where that floor is, but if I go into my section and I just expand this view just a little bit, I'm starting to see that floor here. So again, I'll change the detail level to fine. I'll change this floor type to something that's got a little bit more detail here. Let's say it's metal deck. If I want the bottom of the deck to be at the floor level, well then you can use that same modify tool, the align, to change where this lies. So you choose your floor level and it'll bring it up here. So before, the floor itself would have been at 0 height offset, but because we used the align tool, it automatically calculated that it needs to be 5 inches above. So we can reset that by changing the height offset, hitting apply, and it'll go back to where it is. So that's using the align tool. That's pretty helpful, and it'll come in very handy in a lot of places. Let's just go back to the plan and we'll take a look at a couple more of these. Moving walls is pretty simple, or moving anything for that matter is pretty simple. You can select an object and simply drag it. And if you do this too, when you select an object, you're going to see some temporary dimensions appear. And these are nice because it allows you to type in exact values. And notice too, I don't have to put in the actual unit. I can just type a 12. And because this is using imperial units, it recognizes that a unitless entry actually means feet. If I want to change that to say 8 feet, I could put in 96 inches, but I will have to type inches and it'll translate. Same thing goes for metric input as well. If you want to say 3200 millimeters, you'll have to put in that that unit and it will translate it for you perfectly. And this is going into 64ths of an inch because we haven't changed any precision, but as you can see, it's getting right down to the millimeter. So another one that's really nice as well is this trim extend to corner. If I create another wall here, let's use, say, an interior partition. I'll just come down and choose one from the list. I'll draw it in here. And I don't extend it all the way. What you can do is, again, come back to your modify tools and use this one here to essentially fill it. And what's nice, I'll just go back to what we had before, is you'll see these wall joints come together exactly how they should. So typically you're not going to see a wrapped exterior to an interior wall, but let's just take a look with these two exterior walls. I'm going to bring this wall off a bit and I'm going to change its type to another exterior wall. Let's say Eaves laminate on metal stud. So you can see now, if I'll change my view, so you can see that I've got a slightly different wall type here, but if I still use that trim extend feature, it's going to wrap it accordingly. So it gives me the proper reveal and it brings my structural elements in together and gives me that nice airspace in between. So Revit's really good at determining detailing right off the bat when it comes to building envelope. Let's see, in some other instances as well, you might need to split a couple walls. So the split tools are these two guys right here. You've got split element and then split with gap. Typically I just use the split element and then I adjust my wall segments afterwards, but just to show you a bit how that works, let's select the tool and we'll just mouse over a wall element. So right now, again, you can see I've got a temporary dimension. If I press that anywhere along the lines, it's going to actually split my two elements. So now I've got 3 wall segments where initially I only had 1. This is nice. Now I can change this middle segment to another wall type. I'll match things up just a little bit. And you can see because of the location line of this wall, it's using the interior face. That all stayed lined up. And even though the thickness of the walls changed, the location line of the structure has stayed the same. So that's really handy too. Another place where you'll end up using these split tools is in sketches. So if I grab this wall and I want to change the profile of it, it's going to ask me, where do you want to make this profile? I'll choose that north elevation. And let's say we just want to put an opening in this wall, just a small opening. What I'll do is just draw that opening get a nice round number. Change that to 3. So now essentially I have these 3 new line segments, but remember when we're doing wall profiles we need to have closed loops. So in this situation I actually need this point to this point to be my segment and this point to this point, and there can't be any segment in here. So what I'm going to do that is just split that once, that bottom segment. Doesn't really matter anywhere in here, just so long as I have 2 segments that I can use my trim extend feature to fillet those 2 segments at the bottom. So now you can see I have a nice closed loop. So the split comes in handy there as well. So we'll accept that, and now you can see I have an opening in that wall. So those are a couple modified tools and a little bit about building location lines. These things will come in handy and they'll help your process considerably. Hope you all learned a little bit of something today, and thanks for watching. Bye now.